Good evening, everyone. It is 5:30 and we're ready to begin. I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, Ms. Rhonda. Here.
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 Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Mrs. Temple?
Here.
Mrs. Williams? Here. Ms. Person West?
Present.
We're down to public comments. Are there any, oh no, sorry, let me back up. I'm going ahead of myself. Executive closed session. Executive closed session per Northwest School District Policy 1.14A stating that private or closed discussions by the board may occur as part of a regular or special board meeting. Executive sessions may be held only for the purpose of considering employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of an employee, or to discuss matters of pupil punishment, if requested by the parent or legal guardian. No resolution, agreement, or motion considered in executive session should be legally binding unless the board reconvenes in public session and presents the item for vote of the membership. Finally, Arkansas Code Title 25, Chapter 19, Section 106, 2C1 states, the specific purpose of the executive session shall be announced in public before going into executive session. Please join me in the executive closed session for discussing the following matters: employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of an employee. Second session, we're down to number 4, public comments. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? There being none, we're down to number 5, action items. The first action item is employment of personnel.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, action item 5.1 is the employment of personnel. The superintendent recommends the employment of personnel as discussed in executive closed session.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent of the employment of personnel as discussed in our executive session.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that we accept the employment of personnel as discussed in closed session. There can be no discussion because it's employment of personnel. There will be a roll call vote. Ms. Rhonda?
Dr. Redis,
Yes.
Ms. McLean,
Yes.
Ms. Walken,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
No.
Ms. Temple,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
No.
Ms. Carson West.
Yes.
I heard my name, I know my name.
It is 5-2, so it passes. 5.2, draft update policy 3.01, licensed personnel extra compensation.
So, Madam President, members of our Board of Education will welcome Mr. Smith, our Executive Director of Human Resources, and Ms. Stumpenhouse, the President, CEO of LPPC.
He gave you an extra title.
She does a great job.
She does.
It doesn't pay very well.
Absolutely.
So we'll give you to do the high-level overview. So I'll turn it over to you both.
We shouldn't need to do that. Dr. Paluski, Madam President, members of the board, we come before you this evening. If you'll recall, in the last meeting, the board approved our contracts for the 25-26 year to be issued. With that, we have an opening for a volleyball coach, and there has been a realignment that's been needing to happen for a while in regards to what we compensate our volleyball coach versus what neighboring districts compensate. And so we come before you this evening asking that we lessen the number of days and lessen the stipend associated with our head volleyball coaching position to better align with where we are around surrounding areas. And so the request would be for a 240-day contract to be dropped to 215 and a $10,500 stipend to be dropped to $6,500. This has been brought before Coach Ballon, the athletic director, and we have worked with the LPPC to compare regionally what would keep us competitive. And Ms. Stumpenhouse decided to join me this evening, thank you, so that she could communicate any of the how-to and the things that led to how we arrived at what we arrived at. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? Mr. Taylor?
I'm concerned about approving a stipend reduction for only the volleyball coach. Do they not need to do the same thing they're doing in the past, or is there something that we've been seeing that they can do better?
So
why was the volleyball? Why was that particular position chosen?
yes, sir. So the position was compared locally. We compared with, don't let me lie, Little Rock, Pulaski County, Bryant, Cabot, and Conway. We took the average number of days from all of those individuals for the volleyball coach head position. We took the average stipend for all of those 5 and literally divided by 5. That brought us right to 215, so we're dead smack in the middle, and that brought us to 6,500, so we're dead smack in the middle.
Okay, I understand how you did it, but I'm saying, why was the volleyball coach chosen?
That position has been historically high since I have come into my position, and now that it is vacant, we felt there needed to be a readjustment.
Okay.
So how it arrived at that, sir, I cannot speak to. It was not during my time.
It was very high across the state. When we looked at volleyball coaches and how they were paid across the state, it was one of, if not the highest paid volleyball coach in the state.
Are we planning to look at all the positions?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
In fact, we're working to bring before the board in July, at the July meeting, to bring a proposal for all positions.
When we say all positions,
Stipend.
All
Stipends.
stipends. Mhm.
Yes, sir.
at all levels?
Yes, sir. And we've been doing work over the course of the past probably year and a half, Mr. Taylor. 2 years, really. Yes, correct. Prior to you even joining the board, where the board has been brought data and bits and pieces and things like that in regards to how we kind of arrived at all of the different values, but we have had some shifting in regards to the way we think about that. I think the purpose of Ms. Stubbenhouse coming this evening was to make sure that everybody was aware that those 5 districts in which we compared, we'd like to apply that same methodology to looking at all of our stipends, whether it be extracurricular or athletic, and us bringing back something that we can hopefully afford. The reason this is being brought in this way is because we would like to post this position, but in order to realign it to something that is similarly situated, and this, from what we can tell, is probably the only one of the positions that would be such a drastic decrease.
Yeah, we don't anticipate lowering others, and I mean, I haven't looked at all the different ones, but I figure almost everybody else will get a raise. This was the one that was an outlier for the entire stipend schedule.
I'm not sure that was what I was expecting to respond, but okay.
I can't speak to the lowering or the hiring of any of the other positions. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, I'm good, thank you.
So this is an open position that we're fixing to.
That's right. That's the reason why we're looking at it, is because it's an open position right now, and this would be the appropriate time to change it when there's not currently someone in that role.
Yes, okay. So just like moving forward, when we do the stipends. Can I say what we just said in executive session?
No.
Let me rephrase. So in the event,
No.
what? Let me get my mind right. So in the event, hypothetically, that we do go through all the stipends and we change things around, that will affect any and all in the future because of the changes.
Correct.
I told you I had to get my mind right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So we're starting here, and this is going to be a domino effect that
That's
everything
right.
else will follow.
That's right.
Okay.
And so we kept it, and we didn't go ahead and move to indexes right now, even though that's our goal for everything in the future, because we didn't want to have one particular stipend on an index and nobody else is on an index right now. So we just stuck with our traditional way of doing stipends, which has been number of days plus flat stipend for right now. But as we make those changes, we'll move everyone to the index.
That's our goal.
That's our goal. And last year, I know when we came to you, we had discussed, we first sat down and started talking about stipends. We were talking about Bryant being the gold standard for stipends. And so since that time, Coach Ballon has had some time to be in the position, and he really wanted us to consider comparing schools that were in about a 30-mile drive that we lose both students and staff to, and not just Bryant. So we agreed, we worked out with him what would be appropriate school districts to look at, which ones would not necessarily be appropriate. And we agreed, and we made a motion in our committee that we would look at those 5 school districts going forward for all of our positions.
And tell me those 5 again, I'm sorry.
Conway, Bryant, PCSSD, Little Rock, and, no, you get me the 5th one.
Conway, Bryant,
Cabot.
Cabot. Little Rock and Pulaski County. Correct.
Because the director only wanted to deal with Bryant, but you suggested the other 5
No, he's
schools.
the one who wanted to add more. Believe me, I didn't want to create more work for myself, but he would like to he wanted to have more to compare. So that's when we sat down and worked out, okay, which ones do you want? Why do you want them? Like, what is the reasoning that we can all agree on is good, solid reasoning as to why we're looking at certain school districts and not. And so that was what we came up with.
Ms. McLean,
It's on you, Ms.
I don't
Dale.
have any questions.
Ms. Williams.
Okay, we have given the same stipends to all the coaches, which is a major sport. Volleyball is a major sport, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
They're all,
No, it's not. It's in the summer.
I don't make distinctions between major and minor
Okay,
sports.
Thank you. It is my understanding that volleyball is a major sport, okay, but would we be changing it if a boy was a volleyball coach?
I-
Food for thought.
all we
I
do
know
is-
you don't know, that was
Yeah.
just a food for thought. Okay, in your policy, you had to mention the Teachers Fair Dismissal Act, so we need to go back and clean up these policies where it's talking about, referred to in this policy. that
Fair
you
enough.
run off for, regular supplement extended contract days, and in this policy that you had it in there. I'm just saying it just need to be, it was printed, but need to go back and clean it up, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Because that was confusing, because you know we can't use that anymore, Mr. Smith. You
Yes,
know what I'm
ma'am.
saying?
Absolutely. I was unaware of that. I apologize. I will make sure it's cleaned
I
up.
know it, but we need to just clean up some policies anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
And we hired a supervisor for athletics. The only thing that I'm saying here, I was looking at Miss Sarah. I can't pronounce your last name.
It's okay.
You did a phenomenal job on doing the color view for the volleyball coach, but would have been made it more effective had you used the other 4 head coaches and showed the light of where they look in Bryant, Cabot, Conway, and Little Rock. Because just looking at this little pretty picture, you say you're gonna drop it back down to 210 days, and we'd save, you said a cost saving would be $10,000. But I wonder if we looked at all them other coaches, we may could save about $50,000 or $60,000. But to me, it wasn't a clear-cut presentation that you had. I would have liked to have seen the other 4 head coaches lined up with the volleyball coach. Thank you.
So when you say 4, which exactly 4 are you talking about?
What you said?
Which 4 are you talking about? I'm just.
The head 4 head coaches at the top that
The
you all had in the.
2 basketball coaches and the football coach compared
Right.
with the volleyball
Oh,
coach.
okay.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
It was in your packet that you sent out. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I just sent the volleyball.
Okay then.
Mr. Smith, we could put that in the weekly board report. to show the
Absolutely.
Table of a comparison.
Absolutely.
Right. So we can all see the whole picture.
Sure.
Right.
That way they can't say we're just jumping on one coach, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Temple,
I have no questions.
Ms. West?
To me, volleyball is a major sport, and I know that they practice a lot in the summer. I played volleyball from the 6th grade to the 12th, so we were in the gym in the summer on a regular basis. I do know that there's conferences. I do know that there's state, there's district, and I think that for me, if I was a volleyball coach coming into this district, I would probably wonder why that was kind of, in a sense, put on the lower end of the spectrum or lowered that much. But I was hoping that if we were gonna get stipends as far as athletics, that a little bit more had been done on it, so that therefore we are not trying to piecemeal different components of it. We have a package that we can look at and make a decision on everything, because if you're gonna lower one to 6,000, then you have to lower all of them to 6,000, in my opinion. So I don't think that volleyball is any less important than football. I don't think that football is any less important than basketball. But I think that it can be a little bit more equitable. So I'm going to support this one.
For clarity, we're still looking at stipends for everybody. for-
Absolutely.
across the board. The only reason that we're doing this one
Yes.
is because the position needs to be posted.
Right.
And rather than post it at that high level,
Right.
and then they get, then it's decreased.
Right.
We're doing it now.
Right. We don't want to pull the rug out from under somebody, and they think they're going to get paid, and they're showed a certain range, and then we come and take money from them as soon as they get hired.
Which makes sense. And so there is that possibility, just possibility, that once we go through all the rest of the stipends and see what level it needs to be, that position, it could be more.
Right.
But we're doing a baseline for now so we can post a position and hire somebody.
So we should have probably
Okay.
had a baseline for all sports, correct?
And we do that workshop we had in which the board came, and we have a baseline, but Coach Ballon has recommended that we go back to the drawing board to kind of reevaluate those pieces with those 5 school districts in tow.
I get that. My question, I guess specifically, or my statement or concern, is how come we didn't have all of those components with those particular comparisons already? Because even though it could go up, it could go down, it could stay the same. However, we should, if we go vote on it, I would like to be sure to have all of it at one time as far as an athletic standpoint. So you're done with that, you can move on to something else. You see what I'm saying?
I do. I guess the whole notion of what we were trying to do, because we feel that there is going to be with the remaining positions either an increase at some point or a staying of the same based on comparable rates. This was truly our largest outlier. I mean, this position. And so the intention of doing it now is exactly what Ms. Stumpenhouse communicated, is so that we don't get somebody in here, then whenever we do the average of 5, the 5 districts, and we come up with maybe the next time we come to the board for a raise, and we've already communicated that we are going to include this stipend piece in there, whether a 4-year implementation, 5-year implementation, that'll be based on the board. There would be a lowering by our rationale of this individual position.
I understand that, Jacob, but this is my thing. Go on, Cindy. 'Cause go on.
I can answer this because we had the budget meeting. We went over all of these with Bryant, and the volleyball coach was way overpaid. It was.
Okay,
and
that
it
wasn't
was
my
not,
question
but
or
it wasn't
concern.
addressed at that time.
Right.
So all those other ones were in line with. The only one that really stood out as wrong was the volleyball coach.
I get that, but that wasn't my question nor concern. My question and my concern, go on.
I said, thank you.
My question and my concern is this. If we're going to do this, and hear me out really good, if we're going to do this, then we need to make sure that we have all of it listed out to where we can make a decision on all of it versus trying to piecemeal each individual sport at a time. That's all I'm saying.
Yes,
I ain't
ma'am.
retarded.
Yes,
I know what I'm trying to say, and I know that we are trying to save money. I get all of that. However, what I'm saying to you is we should have had the information, all of it lined out at one time. That was my point. What are you saying, Cindy?
I already said it. You're not trying to understand. The reason they came back to this one is because this was the
I
only
get
one
it,
that was
but
open.
Madam President,
Ma'am.
could we
Yes. Point of order. Is there any further,
Can I make a
are
comment?
there any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure everybody understands, like, we're not comparing sport against sport against sport at North Little Rock. We're taking each individual
That's not
sport
what I'm
and
saying.
compare.
Go
I just
on.
want to make sure that we're clear that I'm not trying to decide what's equitable or not. I'm just simply trying to be able to say, we want to look at how each individual sport compares to those 5 schools. And I may not agree that football makes more money than volleyball or whatever, but that's the world we live in, and we're trying to be competitive with those particular districts. So all we can do is look at those districts and come up with some ideas for numbers. And so that's what we're doing. And we're saying that and when you take those 5 schools, we are right in the middle. We are still, even with 6,500 and 215 days, we are still the 3rd best option. Cabot and, Bryant and I think, was it Cabot, are lower than us. 2 of them are lower than us. We're right in the middle. And then Little Rock and one other one is higher than us. I think Conway is higher than us. So even in those 5, we're not at the bottom. And we're still very competitive at $6,500 and 215 days.
Is there a motion?
Madam President.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
still ain't answering my question, but go
Yeah.
on.
Yes, ma'am.
Stop it when it's time.
I so move that we accept the policy 3.01.1 licensed personnel extra compensation for the volleyball stipend and days.
Second.
It has been properly moved in second that we accept the draft that was presented, updated policy 3.01-1 licensed personnel extra compensation for the volleyball. Is there any further questions?
Now. Ms.
I don't have any
Wicks.
question. My question never did get answered, and apparently she can't answer it, so we can go on. We can keep moving. And neither can Jacob, but go on.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes,
Yes.
I oppose.
We need a roll call. Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
No.
Not until we have a whole package.
There is, the vote is 4-3, it passes. 5.3, Arkansas
Smith.
Storm MOA.
I'd like to place
Ridiculous.
it on record that I am stepping out for this motion.
Sure.
Is there a motion to accept the Arkansas Storm MOA?
Madam President,
Yes.
I move that we accept the Arkansas Storm MOA.
Second.
It has been properly moved in second that we accept the Arkansas Storm MOA. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. You may return, ma'am. 5.4, Community Service Learning Partner Applications.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
I so move that we accept the Community Service Learning Partner applications for the North Lark Chamber of Commerce and the First United Methodist Church.
Second.
It has been properly moved in second that we accept 5.4 Community Service Learning Partner applications that are listed. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. 5.5 Indian Hills Elementary School concrete repair.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
I so move that we accept the Indian Hills concrete replacement proposal.
Second.
It has been properly moved in second that we accept Indian Hills Elementary School concrete repair proposed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Is there a motion to move to adjourn and go into workshop?
Madam President.
Yes,
I so
ma'am.
move that we move to adjourn.
Second?
It has been properly moved in second that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are officially in workshop.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of our Board of Education, we'll move into our workshop. Should go relatively quickly. Our first information item is an overview of our Summer Success Initiative. I want to welcome Dr. Tracy Lightfoot, our Executive Director of Elementary School Performance, and Dr. Leanne Stoll, our Executive Director of Special Services, and Acting Director of Secondary School Performance, to provide a high-level overview of some changes for summer school for this year. Ladies, welcome.
Good evening, our president and Dr. Paluski and members of the board. Hold, please. There we go. Thanks.
Guys got it?
Battery low.
Wait on. It says it's the green light, but what?
I can pitch it if you need me to.
I about to say I grab a battery over here.
Or you can click for us back there if you want to.
I was going to say I can do it if you need me to. We'll just keep this thing going. I can. Randy, you got it? Oh, we just didn't put the...
Oh, okay, the toggle.
Okay.
Okay, I guess he's gonna use it. Do something there, I guess.
Is it working now?
No.
No, I
Here,
think he
I
took
got
it
you.
and put it.
I got you. Go right ahead. Go ahead, Doc. Take it away.
So the purpose of this, our presentation is to present to you our Summer Success Initiative to 2025. And we want to start with elementary school. And we will present to you what our days that we will run for our Summer Success Initiative. And it will be for 13 days that will run for students and 14 for teachers. The teacher planning day will be on June 10th, and then summer learning will start on the 11th and run through July 3rd. They will go 4 days a week, with Juneteenth being a holiday. The times of summer school will be from 7:45 to 11:45. The Summer Success Initiative was deliberately planned this year based on that we do have certain budgetary constraints that we want to consider, but we did want to keep in consideration the needs of our students. So the focus is what we made it for intentionally for second and third grade students. Based on the LEARNS Act, the second grade cohort will be the one in which promotion standards will be an issue in the following year. So we wanted to open up for second and third grade students to kind of help and give them a jump start on their learning. Because of campuses that are going to be being worked on, we're going to look at sixth grade campus and do it all in one campus. That will also help us in regard to keeping one school open versus many. So the second and third graders are identified as performing below proficiency level or failing a grade in 2 or more subjects and have 7 or more absences for the academic school year. Now with this budget, we projected an enrollment of 700, which is the top, which is the outside for all students they want to invite. So we will actually see more of a savings too, because we probably will not get over 5, but we make sure that we wanted to include all the costs to get all the second and third graders that we can. And breakfast and lunch will be provided, and district transportation for district zone students. This is a breakdown of the budget and the considerations to have a very intense and thoughtful program. We have dyslexia specialists and our L specialists that will be on board for summer school, and we've come up with, before fringe, $117,203. With friends, $145,749.48.
And then I'm going to move into the secondary. We're doing just grades 7 through 12, and we're doing those all at the high school campus this year to save money on building savings, so we wouldn't have to keep 7th and 8th open. We are going to separate those students, so the middle school students will be in the A tower, and then the high school students will be in the D tower. The 7th and 8th grade students are going to be mostly 8th graders. They're doing a bridge program for those coming into 9th grade. So that bottom 25% is what they're going to be looking at. And then the high school students are those needing credit recovery for failed courses that they've failed throughout the year. We're running those same dates as elementary. June 10th will be the work day for the teachers, and then June 11th through July 3rd will be the dates for the students, just like elementary. The times are going to be a little bit different, and we did that just so that the buses could get the elementary students dropped off at 6th grade and then middle school and high school, so we wouldn't have to hire so many drivers. So that's why we're not running them all at the same time. They'll be served both breakfast and lunch, and again, transportation will be provided. And then the secondary budgets, you see there, the total cost will be $76,807.50 before fringe, and then the fringe is over to the side of $17,396.90. And then this is your transportation cost and the total there at the bottom. And then our overall budget, Dr. Lightfoot and I met with Mr. Brown because when we first started, we had a little bit of an extensive budget. We had some dreams to serve a few more kids, but we were given a total, and we sat down with him and we came up with our budgets and hours, and that's how we got to be under budget by $9,953.82.
Which will be, it will end up to be much more. It's going to be Title I funds will be used, but with elementary coming in at 500 students, 200 shy of the enrollment, then it will be a cost savings for that Title I budget as well.
So the next one I'm going to talk about is for special education and its extended school year services. And this is different than regular summer schools. Special education students under IDEA, they have to qualify to go to extended school year, and we have to offer it under the law. We have about 38 students who have met the 13 criteria. We have IEP conferences in the spring, and our teachers determine if they qualify for those services, and they're offered so that students with significant cognitive disabilities don't regress over the summer. We are running it the same time frame as regular summer school, same dates. It's at the bottom of Tower D at the high school, which is where we traditionally have it. That's where our self-contained classrooms are at the high school. We'll serve both breakfast and lunch there as well. And then the budget is there, the number of teachers we need, and that is paid for out of the special education budget. We have a line item for ESY that's paid for under federal funding. And that's it.
Are there any questions about summer school 2025?
Ms. West, do you have any questions?
Yes. Okay, so I'm glad we're having summer school, and I think it is definitely beneficial to our school community. But my question is, and this is about to date me, but back yesteryear, we used to, or schools used to basically have the student or that particular family put some skin in the game, if you will. And it was, say, I can't remember, $100, I think that it was for summer school. Am I?
You're right. Yeah,
Okay.
we did do that.
So my question is, to help with that, and I get it, and I understand where we are as far as our budget, the money that we have, the money that's going to go into this, and the community. But does that not give like a sense of folks putting some skin in the game? I mean, even if it is $100.
We have talked about that for secondary, especially when those kids fail classes, so that they have some accountability. We just, this year, because we were able to come in under budget, we didn't have to do that, but it is something we have considered and we're looking at and we may need to do in the future. We just were able to come in under budget this year, but it is something we used to do. I remember when we did that, and I think it was $100. So
I
that
think
they
my mom
had-
probably paid to just get me out the house, but just for the, movement, just taking
So we
extra
can-
courses or
Yeah,
whatever.
we
But
can look at that going into next year. I know that there's a lot of families in need that $100 might be very difficult, and I think that's what kind of when Miss Dorothy talks about the individual Chromebooks and how do we provide
Right.
that. We want to be able to provide it as a service. Under COVID, remember when we had ESSER funds, we were running summer school at about nearly $750,000. We're much less than that now and being strategic and focused with the students. And I want to thank Dr. Lightfoot and Stoll for putting all this together. But if that is the will of the board that you want us to
no,
look at.
it's not my will necessarily. I'm just, again.
Yeah,
I'm
we
looking
can look at it,
options.
especially with high school courses.
Yeah.
That's if
To
you want us
just kind of look
that
at
for
it and
next
see
year.
what it will look at, look
And we
like
could
as
run-
far as just putting that
Sure, we can run
idea
the
out there.
we can run the enrollment and run what it would projected cost of how many kids, how many credits.
And then even offer some options, like you may be able to pay $25 here. You may be able to pay $25, there, and break it up for 'em. Make it convenient, but just kind of just looking at that. My other question, or not really a question, but a concern, is I kind of looked at it. I know you were saying the younger ones were going to be at the 6th grade campus, but and I know they're going to be starting at different times to allow for transportation, but what about the, I guess, how do you prevent that, with the older kids, the younger kids, all that kind of stuff?
Those are considerations that need to be worked out in regard to the cafeteria. I don't think that there's going to be any other thing, but as far as that shared space, I think that that's logistically something that we need to work out. And before, now and then, if there's something we need to open another school, but seating, when you collapsing down, it becomes hard in an elementary school to seat that age of child in you trying to fill up the school, because you have pre-K and kindergarten seats that a second and third grader is not going to adequately. So that seems like the more practical place to go because all second and third graders can seat there, and it's not become a furnishing
Right.
type of piece.
And that, and you know, and I was just kind of looking at it from the standpoint that when you're talking about summer school and then the between the 11th, 12th grade age range, you're looking at 17, 18-year-olds, possibly 19, depending on the circumstances. And then you have, say, 15-year-old, 14-year-olds in the mix too. So that was just my concern on that. And that's kind of something that I kind of thought about.
We thought about that too, and when I was visiting with Dr. St. Louis, that's when we talked about the Tower A and
Yeah.
Tower D. We're going to try to keep them very, very separate, and same for the lunch times. But yeah, I do worry about, especially those age ranges together, and hormones and
Yes.
all the things.
And being proactive and mitigating before it is a problem. Gotcha. That's all I have.
Ms. Temple,
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Williams?
Yes, Dr. Lightfoot, because students will be attending, not at their schools, would you and Dr. Stowe, would their health information be transferred, with them while they're in the summer program?
That's a great, actually, that has not been a consideration, and I think it needs to be. And so we'll absolutely attend to that. Once we go through the hiring, get nurses involved, and then that'll be a level of planning that we'll place into that. Thank you for
Okay.
that.
Dr. Stowe, I have a lot of questions for you because parents concerned about their little babies being at that high school with the, 7th through 12th.
Yeah.
So if you can answer these questions for me, what tower would the level, have you gotten to the point where you know which tower the levels of the 7th and 8th graders will be on?
So mostly, it's going to be focused mostly on 8th graders that are coming in as 9th graders at high school. It's not as many 7th graders coming. Mostly that bottom 25% of the 8th grade is where the focus is going to be. So they're a little bit older. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Do the classes change for them?
Like, do they
You
move
know,
to different, like to English and math and
Yeah.
yes, they will be changing classes.
Because with the school that size, I guess what I'm looking at, would the senior highs be changing the same time as you would have your 9th graders?
No, they're going to be on different bell schedules, and they're going to be in A tower. I don't know if you know where all the towers are, but A tower and D tower is farthest apart as they can be, and they'll be on different bells. So, like the 11th and 12th graders, when they're switching to go to English and math and all that, we'll keep 7th grade in class, but they should never cross because they're going to stay in those towers. That's
I hope
the
these
plan.
parents are listening. I'm asking all the classes, will they be permitted to move from one tower to another during the day?
No, they will not. They will
Okay.
7th and 8th will stay in A, and high school, senior high will stay in D.
Well, you did explain to me about the 700. You just told me the numbers on the extended year. The nurse is listed. Is that person service to stay in all of these 700 students on this campus? You only got one nurse?
We only have one nurse in the budget, yes, at
We
this
don't have to
time.
do something. Well, with you explaining the number of children that you have, because that was a concern. What if my child gets sick and you got 700 people in that building?
We
So-
have, it's actually, there will be 2 nurses there because ESY, we also hire a nurse for them. So they're technically there for the special needs kids, but there will be 2 nurses on staff in the building at the time.
Okay. My major concern was, the parent called, just said that they were concerned about the mixing of the grades and the fact that there was only one nurse, for your school.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you know how they get sick. I don't know that, so if you could express that again.
So there will actually be 2 nurses on campus at the high school. One will be hired for the regular summer program, and then there's one there that's there for the special ed one. So there will be 2 nurses if we needed to call on the one that's there for ESY. They're in the same campus. They'll be at high school. So there will be 2 nurses on staff. They're just paid for out of 2 different funds.
And we can also supplement that with Nurse Green.
Yes, and then
which
Nurse Green
always-
is also our head of nursing. She can always be called in if we need her to.
And say it again, I read it, but I know you hired a dyslexia person. Would you repeat that, please? Dyslexia for the summer?
That's gonna be at regular summer
elementary.
school, at elementary, that's,
Elementary
That's
will
what I'm
have.
talking about. Just saying it's a good,
yes, there will be dyslexia, SPED, and ESL all at the regular summer school campuses
Thank
as
you.
well.
you did good.
Thank you.
I love the name of the program, Summer Success. It's very positive. I like it. It's uplifting. We're hoping for the best. So I like that a lot, and I like your red glasses.
Oh, thank you.
Ms. Wancom.
I had no questions up until Dorothy. So I know the high school layout very well. A tower is literally on one side, D tower is literally on the other, and there are two doors that technically we can close in between if necessary.
Correct.
Possibly we can consider that option if parents are so concerned about a 7th grader and a 12th grader and vice versa. So just something food for thought.
That's a good
that we
idea.
have the
Those
option,
doors.
so it's there.
Mr. Taylor?
So, my concern is during the class time, but also, you said all kids will have the option to be picked up and taken back home, right? The buses will run?
But yes,
Okay. Do kids normally stay, or do they normally have to wait for rides and things like that? during the summer
riders
school? There are
Car
there are
riders.
car riders, yes.
So, for that particular population, how do we make sure when they're waiting to be picked up, they don't tend to migrate to where all the,
That's where our administrators come in.
okay,
I know that I've planned for 3,
Okay.
because some of our students, you have some challenges there, and so we want to just be sure that supervision is always present, and that they're always present even after school when we're waiting on transportation until all students are gone.
so the parents can expect somebody's watching them when they're waiting. We're not gonna leave the kids out there waiting for a ride.
Not without adult supervision. An administrator is there until all students are
Okay.
gone.
When you work out the cafeteria situation, could you just let us know about how you're gonna
We
make
could put it
sure-
in our weekly board
Okay.
report
Yes.
for you.
That's a
Alright.
good idea.
That's all I have.
So, real quick, that'd be kind of almost like, to go off of what Mr. Taylor was saying, lost what it was called, bus duty, kind of almost like bus duty per usual through the regular school year, right?
Yes.
And then just kind of have somebody out there if you have like lingering car riders. Okay, gotcha.
Thank you. No questions.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Merci beaucoup.
Non-CDL transportation and salary schedule update.
Welcome, Mr. Smith, back.
You back?
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Smith,
All righty. Yes, ma'am.
before you get started, I really appreciated your report, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And I guess this is a question to, I guess, Mr. Brown, too. When you presented the report last week, about the changes in bus. You gave us a good report on that.
Yes,
about
ma'am.
the salary schedules. But what was confusing me, you said they'd have maintained their same salaries, the salaries you have, you've listed in this report. But the only thing that I'm asking, and Mr. Brown just walked in, we have seasoned bus drivers, and they make, say for instance, one make $21. But then when they get ready to do a field trip, that's where the problem comes in. The problem is they have to receive the base pay of $18 in lieu of maintaining their pay. Like how you work overtime, and you still maintain your same base pay. And I think that's been the biggest confusion with the bus drivers, the seasoned ones. They can't get with it, and we have had so many problems where principals have been trying to get, these field trips, and they can't get the bus drivers just because of a few pennies. Yes, ma'am. So
Mr. Brown and I tried to communicate it last week. Anything above and beyond a
Right.
normal duty, so a normal bus route and things like that, we have tried to establish rates.
Right.
A comparable comparison would be teachers and tutoring. So we have some teachers that are topped out on the salary schedule that are making close to $50 an hour, but our rate for tutoring is $35 an hour. So those individuals, if they chose to participate in tutoring, they would receive that $35 an hour rate. And so that is just kind of a standard in which we're trying to move to kind of make sure that we are equalizing in a post-ESSER fund environment. We did raise the rates during that time so that we were trying because, as Mr. Brown said, there was an additional risk. I mean, people were driving students, we were exposed, all of those different pieces. Well, now that ESSER funds, ESSER 3 has run out, we are trying to realign our finances to make sure that we're being good stewards of our funds.
And thank you for that and for the report you gave last week, but still a thing that's bothering me. Although we have these seasoned people and these bus drivers, you can't tell them what to do. If they say, I don't want to work, I don't. I understand the coaches do a phenomenal job that are bus drivers, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
But then when you get to the seasoned bus drivers, they said, no, I'm not going to jump back to $18, although I've been making $28. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that, I don't know, whatever the pennies are, it seemed like we could do something like that.
I have no issue bringing that back to Colonel Stanger and Mr. Brown. If you'd like us to have a conversation and relook at the finances and things of that nature, we can attempt to do that. But I'm telling you that we have really scrubbed the budget and tried to make sure that we are treating our financial status equitably across all positions and classified and licensed so that we are making adjustments everywhere we can, ma'am. And so,
Okay, because money is funny, okay.
yes, ma'am.
And change is strange.
All right, you can move on. But since you gave the report last week, I was just trying to get a clarity from the report last week to this report you're giving today.
Yes, ma'am.
In reference with her question, I was under the understanding that it is it's like overtime.
So if there is,
If I'm a para and
that would be a blended rate overtime. Yes, ma'am.
In my para position, I get $21 an hour. But I decide that I want to help and be a bus driver after my para hours. Then I would get the whatever that rate is for being a bus driver after my regular hours.
If you have worked, yes, ma'am, FLSA and all of those aspects, as long as you had taken a day off that week, as long as you've worked a full 40 hours, all of those nuances come
so
into
you
play.
still get your regular money.
But yes, ma'am.
Now I have a question. So that'd be say $21, and then are you adding the 18 on top of the 21?
No, ma'am.
No.
It's
That's the way
it's a
sounded to me.
blended
Okay.
overtime is the way it's defined, and so there's a unique calculation that Mr. Brown and his folks are very good at doing, and they have to do that each and every time individuals work a dual role.
Because that's why I understood was going to be is 21. Say I work driving buses, $21 an hour in the day, and then if I go something like if I drive the athletic bus to say Conway, then that's going to be at a rate that's going to be lower than the $21, not added to that $21. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, that's correct within the 40-hour work week. And
Right.
then once you hit 40 hours, then they're going to have an additional pay beyond that field trip
Right.
pay.
I got you
So
on
let's
that part.
say they spend 35 hours driving a bus per week. That would be at their normal bus rate that hasn't changed. Then let's say they're driving 10 hours of trips. Well, the first 5 hours would be at this new rate, the base rate.
The reduced rate, got
And
you.
then the additional 5 hours would be a blended overtime rate. So it's weighted based on the number of hours you're driving at the lower rate and the number of hours you've driven at the higher rate. that blended rate is a state required calculation. So it becomes overtime at that point. So they would not be paid this base rate of $18 per hour for the hours over 40. It's going to be $18 per hour plus an additional overtime rate that is blended between, and that blended rate, it changes based on the number of hours you work. For someone that works, let's say someone that has 20 hours of overtime, so they have 60 hours in a week, their blended overtime rate is going to be higher because they've spent more time driving. And it depends on the number of hours and the rate that you're being charged, that overtime calculation. So the difference in the rates that we're talking about are only for the hour. Well, it affects both calculations, but the number of hours that you work within the 40-hour work period, there's that simple, either, you know, if you make $25 an hour at your regular route, you make $18 at your current route. Then when you step into overtime, it depends, and it depends on how many hours you're driving at both of those jobs. And we have a state-issued spreadsheet that we have to enter that information in. It calculates that blended rate, so they would get additional pay above that $18 per hour for every hour over 40.
I think I got it now.
Yes.
Madam Chair, at the end of the day, when it comes to the budget, there's just a set number. We have to stay in it. And there's two ways to do it when it comes to doing anything with a bus. You can pay more, but drive less. When we looked at the field trips, and we keep a database of all that anytime a bus moves, Trip Finder, as of 2 weeks ago, when we looked at it, so far this year we had done 418 field trips, 481 athletic events, and the year's not over. In this business, if it moves, it costs money. So another way to look at it in the future is do we do less field trips and then pay more to make up the difference? I don't know. We are looking at that right now, along with the field trip policy we're just started chewing on. So 418 might be a big number. 481 might be a big number. Don't know. I'm just saying we are digging in it right now to find the equilibrium between what field trips, how many we can afford, how many athletic events that we have to do because we're in a conference. What is the rate of return on a field trip? Sometimes it's great to send a kid to the zoo because maybe he's never been to the zoo before. What is the academic goal we're looking at? Are we measuring that for the field trips we are doing? Are we doing too many? Are we doing the wrong ones? Are we going to the wrong places? We don't know yet. But at the end of the day, you either pay less, or if you're going to pay more based off the fixed budget from the states and the feds, we do less.
Or do we have a field trip that come to us?
And we still have field trips coming up and sporting events between now and the end of the year.
And then I think about what's more important. We keep talking about money, 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 but I be thinking about the educational aspect for our children to go to field trips. That's
Agreed.
what's important to me. And although we're talking about, you all have had the experience this past year with the bus drivers not going anywhere, and Ms. Coben perhaps had to struggle to find people who was willing to buy the bus to get on it. So again, it goes back to our students. Let's put our money where our mouth is. If it's students, let's see what we can do. Because if that bus driver want to maintain that pay, when they get ready to drive that bus to Conway and they come back, and you drop it back down to the base of $18, or is it $14? 14?
$18.06, I believe, is the drive.
And they not making but 21. How much have you lost? Come on now. Think about the students.
But wait a minute,
their
hold on.
environment, giving them enrichment. That's the only thing I'm saying.
And let me ask this and make sure that just from that standpoint, average hours, and y'all may or may not know this because none of us drive buses, but the average for a week as far as a bus driver, that's 25 hours, correct? 20, 35? Y'all know,
That's what we base our average bus pay on is 5 hours a day.
5 hours a day. So, but they still got to get to the 40 hours though, right? So they'll still be at their regular rate of pay. So if they're having to drive somewhere that's like for a field trip, it'll be at the regular rate of pay because they haven't gotten the 40 hours.
That's correct. Until you
So
get to 40 hours.
they should still be in the good, I would think. Well, am I understanding that correctly? So if they haven't got to
the regular routes are the routes to and from school.
right, so that
So
equals
that's-
into the 25 to 30 hours a week, correct?
Yes. Correct.
Okay, so if they say, okay, I got to go to, just say high end, 30 hours. Okay, if they have a field trip and they're going to the Little Rock Zoo, and that's approximately 2 hours field trip or whatever, I don't know. That 2 hours is factored now into that 30 hours, so we're up to 32 hours, correct? So we still haven't gotten to the 40 hours.
Correct.
So they're still at their regular rate of pay.
No, they're at the
No,
regular
ma'am.
rate of pay for the first 25 hours.
First 25
But-
hours, and then it drops down.
And it drops to 1806 until 40, and then at 40, it's a blended overtime.
Oh, got you. Okay, now I got it. But we need to probably find field trips that could probably come to us, right?
That's always an option, and virtual trips as well.
Uh-huh.
So the only thing I just want to say to that is 7th Street on Friday with World Vet Day is a great example of bringing outside partners in.
I love it. Because if it's free, it's for me. 0.30.
May I have a clarification point to this, I guess? Is this a state policy you stated? You said something, this
So
was a state?
So the state defines the way that schools calculate overtime. That's what state, as far as the pay levels, those are not state, those are district driven.
So North Little Rock School District is not deciding 25 hours versus 28 hours. That is the state.
No. We do decide that. We
Okay.
decide what is a full-time route
Okay.
for our district. And 5 hours per day times 5 days a week is what is considered a full-time route in North Little Rock. Anything over 5 hours, no, that's just an average. So let's say someone's driving a route
Correct.
every day that maybe they're working 6 or 7 hours a day. They get paid for those additional hours over the 25. 25 is just sort of a baseline that we use. They still clock in and they clock out, and we pay based on their driving time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Some take closer to 6 hours a day. Some are more around 5. If we have a bus driver that is out, then somebody might have to run an additional route. All of those would be compensated under their regular rate of pay as they're performing those duties.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the last item. It's coming before you is the non-CDL salary schedule. So if you'll recall, the CPPC discussed this. It was passed a while back. This is just an information item. Ms. Coleman brought this to the CPPC. So she was requesting she had something similar at Pulaski County whenever she was there. What this does is this incentivizes our drivers that if they're going through the course or if they're having licensure issues, to take care of that. We have a couple smaller buses that do not require a CDL. There is also additional work that we can do that's non-CDL related for drivers and things of that nature. But this is a mechanism for, number one, whenever we get individuals in that want to go through our CDL course, we can train them. They can still drive for us under a rate, but it still incentivizes them to complete it so that they go to that additional rate. So nobody would lose money on this. It is only an encouragement for individuals to get their CDL. Whenever we pass this, we would like to pass this for the 25-26 year so that nobody this year is affected. That would be the request to the board whenever we do this from the administration. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Thank you for your report.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all.
That being